Serious Sam is one of the most iconic FPS game series that has been going since 2001. Serious Sam 4 is trying to pull off that retro FPS style with an updated 2020 engine and look while retaining what makes Serious Sam, Serious Sam. Does it hold up to its predecessors, or does it fumble under the expectations of a modern FPS title? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about, so let's just get stuck into it. So the good stuff. Well, Serious Sam 4 is very much a Serious Sam game in terms of gameplay and the way it manages it. You have a wacky story, an arsenal of weapons, and witty one-liners that just seem to never end. And just to show you exactly how wacky the story is, listen to this cutscene.
We're gonna rendezvous with a priest.
Yep.
Because he knows where to find the Ark of the Covenant.
Yep.
Which contains the Holy Grail.
Yep.
Which is an alien artifact.
Yep.
So we have to go to the Vatican.
Yep.
And if you don't think that's wacky enough, that is pretty much the tip of the iceberg. It's a rather slow start to the game, which is I assume to let people who are new to the genre/franchise get used to the basic enemies and gunplay, but it does slowly ramp up over the first few levels, and it also introduces you to the game's utility gadgets, which I will come to in a moment, and the SAM system, which is essentially an upgrade system, so you can do more badass stuff. The guns within this game range from simple to what the actual fuck is this? And that's one of the things about Serious Sam that I've always enjoyed. It just basically gives you all the weapons and goes, hey, you want to use a pistol to headshot someone? Go for it. You want to dual wield pistols and fight off a horde? Go for it. You want to use dual cannons to launch cannonballs into a giant demon looking bastard's face? Do it. The combat in the game when it peaks is really just absolute carnage. It basically pours blood on your screen to the point where there's that much death. There have been times where I genuinely didn't know if they were all dead because there were that many corpses. So, as any respectable praised gunman does, I kept shooting. And that's the thing about Serious Sam as a franchise. When it's good, it's very good. The guns in the game all have their own purpose, and that's what I like about it. You can use anything to kill anything, but after a while you kind of just learn what works best, and it becomes sort of an internal rhythm. You can act without even needing to think or panic, you can just react to the chaos. Although if I'm being completely honest, I do like the miniguns. The gadgets are definitely a change of pace for the Serious Sam franchise. You have a variety of gadgets, from a juice that increases speed and damage with all weapons, to a mini nuke. You also have a time-slowing grenade, all the way to a gas grenade that actually turns enemies against each other. It's a nice change of pace that modernizes the franchise a little bit, but it doesn't make things overly complicated. In terms of map design or level design, whichever way you want to look at it, they all have a very different feel, and it's almost bizarre at first how open they are, compared to the old Serious Sam games where they were very linear, bar the little secret areas. But other than that, the old games were very much, you go here, you kill these things, you go here, you kill more things. Whereas in Serious Sam 4 you have this almost open world aspect to the levels. And the levels do look really nice, and it even has some side missions which are completely optional, but they do give you either a new weapon, an upgrade for an existing weapon, or a gadget of some kind which can be useful. The side quests, as I mentioned, are completely optional, so if the whole exploring thing isn't for you, then don't worry, you can just go straight for the main objectives. In terms of graphics and sound design, the game looks pretty good whether you are in a city level or an open wide countryside styled section. It looks pretty modern, and the sound design is actually surprisingly good. It has a wide range of different musical styles and instruments, ranging from driving battle music with overdriven guitars to more subdued ambient vocal music, all the way to ominous sounding kind of, ooh, what's gonna happen parts. In terms of sights and sounds, it's very much what I would expect to see in here for a release this year of a game of this style. And a dev like Croteam, you have to remember that they are not a AAA developer. I didn't go into this thinking, oh yes, this is going to be some Doom or Call of Duty, like next generation level of graphics. It fits the core of the game, and I think it works quite well. And I think that's a nice place to end on the positives. Okay, so now for the not so good parts. The first thing I want to talk about in that section is the engine. The engine of this game, I don't know if it's just unoptimized or whether it's the game's design itself, but the frames vary kinda massively per level. Like one level you'll be sitting at 90 FPS on almost max settings, and then you'll be struggling to hit 60 or 70 in the next one, and if you zoom in with a sniper rifle, it sucks all the frames out down to about 35 depending on where and what you are aiming at. I'm trying to show you it here, but it's kind of a hard thing to show on a video that's 60 FPS, as 60 to 30 FPS is a smaller gap than 90 to 30 for example. But I hope it gets the point across. Secondly, no matter what I try in the graphic settings, the floor textures load in as I'm walking around, and in areas with lots of grass and foliage, it is very noticeable. In the towns it's not so bad because obviously there's not so much to see, but when there's grass loading in as I walk, it is very off-putting and your eye just gets instantly drawn to it when you start noticing it. Thirdly, you will notice that when you are loading a level, it takes a very long time, and this is on an SSD. It can take anywhere between 1 and 2 minutes, and again I don't get why, but I hope that it can be fixed or sped up soon, because believe it or not, this footage is actually sped up 300%. In terms of issues with the gameplay, the fighting in the game is completely fine, but it feels very oddly placed in some sections. There's long walking parts in some of the levels with no enemies, which I would like to see changed personally, to have at least a couple of enemies, just to keep you engaged with it. Other issues that I've had are that in some sections you can actually kill the enemies faster than they can spawn, which leads to you not really being punished at all, and I think these either need to be changed in terms of where they spawn, or there needs to be smaller, weaker enemies to allow for some added challenge. Nothing massive, just to avoid the issue of spawn killing enemies and not really having a fight. The audio, as I mentioned before, is very well done. However, I think it could do with more tracks, as in the earlier missions you hear quite a lot of the same songs quite a lot, and it does start to feel quite repetitive when the audio cuts in and out to battle music and it's the same stuff. Even just spacing them out with some ambient noise would be a good shout. It's just something to make it so that you aren't hearing them constantly. This also applies to the voice acting, as when you are with the AI, they do repeat the same voice lines a lot, and it does get quite annoying. It wouldn't be as bad if there was a bit of a timer between them, but it does feel very, very repetitive. I wouldn't even say this next part is really even a negative, but I do wish there were just more guns to choose from. Maybe the alien ones, as the majority of the ones that we use are human. It would just allow for even more freedom of choice of gunplay, though maybe this can be done in an update or a mod, who knows. I just think that more guns, more fun. My final negative is that the game does feel fairly short, although I don't know if that is a harsh negative because I'm unsure on a couple of things. One is that they definitely aren't a AAA dev team, so that a 30-hour story was never happening. And two, is that they potentially got pushed by the publisher to kind of wrap it up, and then Corona happened, meaning they couldn't actually do all the stuff that they wanted to do in the game before release. It did get delayed a month as well, so that's another sign that things weren't quite finished. For anyone wondering, I have 15.2 hours played, and I've completed the game, but that is also with me pausing to go make drinks, as well as a little bit of web browsing between levels. Okay, so the pros and cons are as follows. The pros are that it is fun yet basic gunplay. There are many jokes and puns. If you like dad jokes, you're going to really like it. Decent looking graphics. It's co-op enabled, so you can play with friends. And the SAM system and gadgets are a welcome addition to the franchise. The cons are that the engine does need optimization. It's a fairly short story. And the repetitive audio, which is both music and AI voice lines, does get a little bit annoying. It needs slight rebalancing on some levels as well to keep engagement, but that's kind of a my opinion con. Okay, so conclusion time. Do I think the game is bad? No. Do I think the game needs a bit of work? Yes. I think it's a hard game to try and review and rate. I think that if you enjoy the basics of shooters and you really need a new game to play, then I would try and pick it up and see what you think. You'll probably enjoy it. If you are more just curious and not rushing into it, then maybe wait a few weeks, though bear in mind that they did actually put out a hotfix on Friday, just over 24 hours after release, that fixed some crashes and other issues, so they're being pretty proactive about fixing it. Optimization problems and others will hopefully be fixed soon. Overall, I enjoyed playing the game, and it was very nostalgic of the old games, and I'm probably going to give it another playthrough this weekend on a more serious difficulty. I hope that we do get some DLC or more additions to the game that would make it even more crazy than it already is. I think this game is more of a steady content release game than a final product, I'm hoping, and I hope that we do get more in updates in the future, even if it's just weapons or more enemy/modes to play with or against. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Though if you would ask me if I'm going to give this game a thumbs up, I would say at the moment I would say it's neither a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but with an optimization patch to make it more playable for everybody, I would say definitely a thumbs up. But for now, I'd say buy cautiously and be aware that it does have some issues at the time of making this video. And that just about wraps up this video, so let me know, have you been playing Serious Sam 4, and if you have, what did you think? If you haven't, and you've watched this video, what does the review make you think about it? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and I will see you here for the next video.